Welcome back to the Here We Go podcast. I am Trent Ging. I'm going to do a brief Game 2 recap today. Going to be getting into it a little bit more detail on Wednesday with Colin. We're going to do another live. So there's so much to unpack with this that I'm not going to be able to get this all out in one episode anyway. So obviously this game did not go the way that we all wanted it to go. And I think there's one central figure that is holding a lot of this back. And it's Mike Tomlin, to be perfectly honest with you. He's played games with this offensive line all season so far. And now we're in a position where I'm not sure you can fix it until the regular season starts because we don't have enough guys healthy. Now, if you've listened to this show before, you know that both Colin and myself have both said from day one to get these young guys on the field together now. Don't wait. I don't care if they were ready. I don't care if they'd earned it. Everyone knew very quickly. I mean, I was calling it the day after the draft of Troy Falatanu. The second we got him and Zach Frazier, I said Falatanu was going to be the right tackle this year. They were going to move Broderick Jones to the left. The organization had said they want Jones to be on the left. And there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Zach Frazier was going to win the starting job at center. At what point as a coach do you not sit there and think to yourself, I have two rookies and a second-year guy who is a raw developmental piece anyway, they're going to start in the same season, and you don't want to get them on the field all together in their natural positions and let them begin to gel. It takes time for an offensive line to come together. Other teams aren't using this preseason to mix and match offensive lines to say, oh, well, this guy didn't quite earn it yet. Who cares? I'm so tired of the, oh, he didn't earn it yet attitude in Pittsburgh. We don't have time to wait for them to earn it. They need to be playing together immediately. And now look what's happened. We've had zero, I mean absolutely not one snap with our expected starting five together this entire preseason. Zero. And guess what? You're not going to have one. Falatanu is not playing in the last preseason game, and now it looks like Broderick Jones may not play in the last preseason game. Nate Herbig is now lost to injury. And we're going to go into this season with Broderick Jones, who logged absolutely no left tackle reps last game. None. How in the hell is this guy supposed to be your left tackle of the future? And it's going to be the future is this season. And he's had 0 reps. I think he played 1 series in the first preseason game. What are we doing? Listen, this is not the regular season. You do not need to put your, quote, best 5 on the field, as Tomlin says. Start Jones at left tackle. Play Dylan Cook at right tackle if Dane Moore Jr. can't be a swing. If Dane Moore doesn't want to, if he doesn't want to go to the right side, then you know what? His ass needs to sit on the bench. I'm sorry, but like we're treating this guy as if he was a first-round pick that we traded up for. And we're screwing the guy who was the actual first-round pick. The play on the field isn't the part of preseason that has gotten me so fired up. It's the just absolute nonsense coaching decisions of not even putting the people in the right places. Broderick Jones clearly has some form of, I don't know, limitations with the brace on that arm. You can tell. It is abundantly clear to me. I'm not an offensive line evaluator. It's not a strong suit of mine. But even I can sit there and say to myself, when I watched that game, I was taking notes. The guy has no punch. It's his right arm in this brace. He's talked about he can't move it very well. Everybody covering the team has talked about he can't move it very well. And I'm sorry, but when you're playing right tackle, that's your outside arm. That is the arm you need to protect so that the guy cannot work around you. So what did he do? He overcompensates. His footwork looked pretty damn good, to be honest with you. The problem and the reason that he got beat so badly so many times was that he was, number one, he was standing too tall in his stance. He had no punch. So because he didn't have a punch, and because he had limitations on what he could do with his right arm, he was taking too much of a drop. He was getting too much depth in his pass sets. Go back and watch the game again if you can. If you recorded all 22, whatever you want to go back to, watch what he's doing. He is firing straight backwards on pass sets to try to prevent the guy from getting around him. He was getting 2 and 3 yards deep. That's way, way too deep. And then when Rousseau sees him on his heels backing up like that, he was going straight through him. That's why the bull rush kept winning. Jones was giving no anchor. He couldn't anchor himself once he absorbed that hit. He had no punch to slow the guy down because it's his outside. And yes, don't get me wrong, you use both arms regardless of which side you're on. But to me, I felt like he knew he had limitations with the right arm. It was on his outside, so he was trying to compensate for the lack of mobility. If he would have been on the left, I don't think he plays as bad. Because his left arm, he could have given a bigger punch to prevent the guy from getting around the edge. And then he would have overcompensated maybe for the inside moves. Then maybe he doesn't get bull rushed 5 times or 6 times. I don't know. I lost track at one point. And as I'm watching this whole thing go down, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why are we even doing this? Why is he at right tackle right now? Oh, well, Faltanu's not there. So what? Put this guy in his natural position. He is a raw player. He had 1 season starting in college. He played very limited reps in a game where Dan Moore got hurt last year at left tackle. He played the rest of the season at right tackle. He's had virtually no reps throughout the entire training camp and now the preseason at left tackle. But you want to start this guy at left tackle. I mean, that was like the 49ers expecting Christian McCaffrey to be the freaking stellar quarterback when Brock Purdy got hurt and they had nobody else left on their roster. The dude's taking 0 reps at quarterback. I get it, different positions, it's different. But I mean, like, to me, that's the absurdity of this whole thing. He's a pure raw prospect. Quit messing with him. Put him at left tackle. Leave him. Do not let him move from that side. If Dan Moore can't hack it at right tackle, then it sounds like Dan Moore needs traded. Because Dylan Cook has looked pretty damn good in his time. He can be your swing tackle. There are times that getting a guy to earn a position makes sense. When it comes to an entire offensive line gelling together, I think it's the dumbest thing that we've done as an organization. This has been atrocious. This was a train wreck. The offensive line was getting blown up all game by Buffalo. What are we doing? That is the biggest issue. Now, people want to talk about a quarterback competition. How are you evaluating a quarterback competition? Neither one of them have time to throw the ball. This is counterproductive right now. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the whole thing is just absolutely crazy. I mean, in one blitz, Buffalo sends 7 guys after the quarterback, and like 6 of those dudes got there. What are we doing? And it's because we're playing this mix and match offensive line. Nobody knows what each other is supposed to be doing. They're not familiar with one another. You got to let these guys get together, and they've got to really gel. I mean, that part is frustrating to me. And I put on there, for all the times Tomlin's heard the talks about fire Tomlin chants, or people calling for it on social media and this and that, this is the time he deserved it more than anything else. What he's done with this offensive line group, this is when the fire Tomlin chants really should be the loudest, because this has been an absolute nightmare and an absolute debacle, and it's because of a tradition, not because of common sense, not because of football knowledge. It's a tradition. Like, I don't know. That was not the only aspect of the game that was terrible. I think something that's not talked about enough right now is our special teams punt coverage has been absolutely terrible. And I mean terrible. I mean, Cameron Johnston is just bombing the ball downfield. And returners have all day to pick their windows or where they want to find an opening to where they want to run this return back, because there's no one down there. The first punt of the game, I saw Ryan Watts out as a gunner. That dude was down there. He was the only one the whole rest of the game. Mark Robinson, a lot of times, was the first guy on the scene. That's not good. The gunners have got to be the first guys down there every single time. Mark Robinson was beating everyone downfield quite a bit, and as good as that is for Mark Robinson to show he was winning his battles, he's not a gunner. He's on the inside. That means your gunners are just not doing their jobs. Why? Because historically, Pittsburgh uses wide receivers, and none of our wide receivers have special teams value. I mean, we have Calvin Austin's a punt returner. He does nothing else on special teams. Scotty Miller, punt returner. He's done nothing else on special teams. Des Fitzpatrick, who was one of the gunners, clearly does not need to be a gunner. He does not need to make this team. Because if he can't bring value in the one area that I thought he had a chance to make the team with, we're going to have to look outside, because he was terrible. Quez Watkins has done nothing but try to return, and he was terrible at that. The wide receiver room isn't just bad at catching balls. They can't play special teams. Now, if you're going to be a running offense, part of this game has to be field position in order to win games. Right now, we're going to lose the field position battle with what we've got on special teams. That part's not good. Omar Khan's going to have to make some moves. And Brandon Ayuk doesn't look like it's going to be the move right now. But aside from that, I think I'm hoping that Boykin gets cut right now because we desperately need Boykin on this punt coverage team again. He was stellar at it. And I said, clear back when they didn't re-sign him, this was a mistake. He could really solve two problems that this offense is going to have. We don't have a good blocking wide receiver. He is a very good blocking wide receiver. And we have nobody outside of Ryan Watts on one return that has covered a punt yet so far in 2 preseason games. Boykin would definitely handle that. I think Pittsburgh better hope that dude gets cut, and we better be the first freaking phone call that guy receives. Because this is going to be a problem all season if we don't go get somebody who's actually got experience doing it and has shown they are capable of doing it. These guys ain't doing it right now. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. The special teams is going to be a problem. I know Johnston's somebody who's had a name of not having the greatest hang time in the world. I haven't seen anybody chart the hang times. I haven't felt that it was on him. There's just nobody getting there. So we'll see how that development plays out. But I don't know. So another thing that I found very interesting is our receivers are not consistently getting open. So even if we do have any time to throw the football, which has been an issue, and the biggest issue of the entire offense, they're not getting open. Not consistently. Now, I know we're not doing the full scheme things, but if you want to talk about a one-on-one victory, George isn't doing it as consistently as I'd like to see for a number one wide receiver. So that's being a little bit of, a bit more critical than what I'm going to be on the other guys. Van Jefferson's had issues getting open. Calvin Austin has just been a complete no-show in the entire preseason. I don't care what you want to say about his first game, the 2 catches, 65 yards. Those guys were scrubs. He had a busted coverage. He didn't win his battle. It was a busted coverage where he was wide open. There wasn't a guy within 15 yards of him. That's called busted coverage, not Calvin Austin getting open. And the second one was the exact same play in the fourth quarter. So the dude's got 2 catches on 2 busted coverages where literally anybody else on the field would have gotten open too. Austin's the biggest disappointment for me out of everybody on the team right now because he's just been god-awful. And you can't disappear because in the regular season, guess what? You're not going to see the guys who are bagging groceries at Walmart on the field anymore. So where you finally get a chance to catch a pass. He's done nothing. This team needs Roman Wilson more than I think we all thought. I mean, that's right now, that's my takeaway. And I'll say this. Van Jefferson's had some plays, some nice plays. I'll give him credit where credit's due. But Van Jefferson's not getting open consistently. Roman Wilson, I still think, and I've said this before, I still think this dude might be the number 2 in targets in the wide receiver room right now as it stands. Once he's healthy and integrated back in the offense, and I've seen people talk about Roman Wilson's going to miss time because he's not going to be able to work his stuff. No, that dude is starting week freaking 1 that he's healthy. I don't care what anybody says. He's starting because this receiver room is garbage. So we know Nate Herbig looks like he's lost for the season. It's going to open an opportunity for both Spencer Anderson and Mason McCormick to make this team. The Steelers historically have kept 9 guys, 8 or 9 guys. If keep 9, they're both without a doubt in. I don't think there's a doubt about that. I mean, but even if you keep 8 right now, I think it's Anderson, McCormick, and probably Dylan Cook. I don't know what their comfortability level is with Spencer Anderson playing center or giving Mason McCormick a shot at center. I mean, the dude's never played center. He's exclusively been a left guard. McCollum's definitely not going to make this roster, even though he's the only pure center left. But I don't know who else you're going to turn to. So they may look to make a move there. Who knows what that looks like at this point? Or they may just say they're going to ride it out with what they got. That'll be an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on. And then we also get news that Jalen Warren is going to be out for a few weeks with a hamstring. In a room that nobody really has been talking about because we all felt like it was pretty well locked in. Looks to have some open competition now to make maybe the week 1 roster. Because they're not sure if Jalen's going to be back in time for week 1, which is going to leave Najee Cordero Patterson, who doesn't so far look explosive at all. I know he had 2 or 3 reps or whatever in that game, but dude just looks slow. Maybe the hamstring's still bothering him a bit, and that's why he didn't get much time. But he looked slow. There was no explosion there, and I don't know how he's going to return kicks if this is all he's got in the tank. So how does that development play out? Does this become just a precautionary thing, and maybe he's not playing as hard as he could be just because he's unsure of the hamstring? But there's not a whole lot left in the cupboard right now. Jonathan Ward looked good in the first preseason game. He has a hamstring he's dealing with. He may not be back this week. P. Ryan looked pretty good. Right now, he's probably the front runner of that group. Dejon Edwards, I mean, he's not very explosive. He doesn't bring a lot of special teams value right now. I don't know how he makes the roster as a 3. There's just not a lot in the cupboard right now as far as depth in that running back room. They might have to look outside in that position. They're at least going to definitely bring in a body. But I don't know what they're going to bring to the table in that room right now. I mean, it's pretty bleak. Now, the defense looked pretty good. I mean, I'll say that. We were missing a lot of guys. Of course, we're playing Mitch Trubisky. We weren't playing Josh Allen, which to me was a little disappointing just because I wanted to see that test for our defense. Colin and I were talking about it. In the pregame show, we really wanted to see what we do against a guy who's going to be an elite quarterback in this league this year. Even without some of our biggest stars, it still would have been nice to see the test that these guys would have faced. No Beanie Bishop, which was the surprise inactive in this one. Would have been nice to see him play and see if he can redeem himself from the previous game. No defense pass interference for Joey Porter Jr. That was a good thing. Nice to finally make it through a game without him getting called for a DPI. There were still some issues there in coverage, but I didn't think it was terrible. Nick Herbig looks amazing. I'll tell you what, if anybody's willing and ready to make a year 2 leap, it's 100% Nick Herbig. That dude, I've been beating on his drum since he was drafted. He just looks, acts, walks the part. The stunt that he and Keanu Benton ran, I mean, they ran that thing to perfection. just his pure speed. I think the center and the guard recognized it about as quickly as they could have, and there was just nothing they could do about it. I mean, when he gets going, he definitely everybody looks the same analogies used with him. Shot out of a cannon. It's true. I mean, he does. He hits from 0 to top speed really quickly, and has extremely, extremely explosive and attacking mentality. And again, it was Mitch Trubisky back there, but Mitch is extremely mobile. We know that for a fact. And Josh is bigger. I don't know. Josh could have done anything about that sack either. I mean, that was getting there regardless. He was beating a Pro Bowl left tackle, all-pro left tackle off the edge a number of times in this game. I mean, Nick Herbig definitely looks the part. Undersized and all, he looks the part. I thought his first play in pass coverage was very telling of the type of player he can be in this defense, because we do occasionally drop guys like Alex and TJ, and it was something that we were unsure of with Herbig. Could he do the same things in that regard that our other two do? And he jammed the receiver, the initial receiver. He jammed the receiver, completely took away his route, saw the guy who was the check down, immediately got off that guy and stopped what looked like it could have been a bigger play for 3 yards. I mean, that was a phenomenal play for a guy who is not a coverage guy, more of a pass rush specialist. I thought that was a phenomenal play, and I'm like, okay, Nick is figuring this game out. When I saw that play, I know he's processing the game at a different level than what he was last year. There were some good things in this game. I want to go through a lot more of this in detail with Colin. I've got quite a bit of notes that I took from the game. But I think the biggest takeaways for me right now, if I'm sounding any alarms, it's that this offensive line is not going to gel before week 1. And if Broderick Jones is still having issues with the elbow, I don't even know if he should be on the field. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It might be Dan Moore and Troy Falatanu week 1. And I did not want to see Dan Moore ever in a starting lineup this season. But you cannot let Broderick Jones play if he's this limited, regardless if it's his overcompensation because of limited mobility in that arm, or if it's just simply he's actually hurt and he really needs to. He really needs to pack it in and sit down. Either way, I don't know. We'll see if it gets cleaned up in the next preseason game. If it's truly the brace, then he can't play until that brace comes off, if it's my opinion. And you really might see him sit on the bench week 1. Take that into account along with the special teams, the punt coverage. Because, again, if we're going to be a ground and pound team, which we didn't run the ball this game. So don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that could have changed the trajectory of the game. And to be honest with you, the line still wasn't getting a good push in the run game anyway. But you had Najee Harris averaging like 4.3 yards a carry on 4 carries. Could they have, pound him down in the ground? It would have slowed this pass rush down. Yeah, probably. We're running basic concepts on offense still. So a lot of those things are going to change things. That's why I'm not overreacting to the results of some things. But the offensive line has been atrocious. You need special teams to play really well if you're going to be a running offense so that you can have so we'll see if some of those things change. We'll deep dive into this on Wednesday with Colin. I'll be posting it up there. We're going to go live again. Please join Let us know what you think about the content. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hope you all have a fantastic Monday.